So today we're going to answer a question that I received, which is how to deal with bigger, stronger opponents in Jiu-Jitsu. So let's get into it. So I don't think there's just one way to deal with bigger, stronger opponents in Jiu-Jitsu. There's some ideas that I think you can utilize to all of Jiu-Jitsu, and there's some specific things that I don't do with bigger, stronger opponents, so I'll get into those as well. So let's get into it. So number one, what you should be doing anyways, and it's very important, is grip fighting. Whether it's getting your grips or fighting off your opponent's grips, grip fighting is kind of essential to the start of any position, to getting out of bad positions or not being put in bad positions. So grip fighting is essential, and focus on that. You really have to have that dialed in, because if you don't, you know, someone can smash you, get on top of you, especially a bigger opponent. There's a bigger consequence there. Maneuvering away from someone that's bigger and heavier is going to be harder to do if they're really putting that pressure on you. So grip fighting, super essential. You should be doing that anyways with all your opponents in Jiu-Jitsu. So the second thing is frames and underhooks. I mean, if you're on bottom or bottom half, underhook is vital. It's your lifeline, so making sure you're working for the underhook. If you're unable to, you have a solid frame, whether it's a knee shield or having a good frame with your arms, and being able to position and move around and maintain frames. So frames are super important, because if you're working with a bigger opponent, you may not be able to move them, but you can move yourself. So keeping them where they are with a solid frame is super vital, very important to get yourself out of a bad spot and also get yourself in the position that you want to be in. So that's important. Have good frames, and also part of that is don't let them control your head. If somebody has control of your head, super important. They can limit your mobility and limit what you can do. So again, that's part of that good idea of frames and positioning. And good jiu-jitsu is don't let someone control your head. The next thing is just being patient. I think it's super important. You need to have the proper grips, like we talked about, the proper frames to enter into your positions and do the movements that you want to do. So it's really important to do that. Again, be mindful of not going too quick. You got to be patient. You got to look for your opportunity and kind of stay relaxed. The next thing that's super important is getting underneath your opponent, meaning getting your hips under their hips. You want to use your leverage, your mechanical advantage. So you want to make sure that you're getting in a good position to load them up, whether it's for butterfly sweeps or other, you know, X guard, any kind of positions, making sure that you're getting underneath your opponent. You're able to off balance them, use the mechanical advantages that you have to try to get your sweeps and get your positions. Super important when you're underneath. Again, we've talked about different things like frames, but getting your hips underneath their hips, especially in butterfly, or if you're going for a butterfly sweep, super important. So one of the things that I avoid is a triangle choke. I have decently long legs. I have a pretty good triangle choke, but for me, if I'm going against a really big, thick person, triangle choke isn't always my favorite technique, because I feel like a lot of guys that are bigger, they can kind of smash and kind of come out of it. They even will bait you sometimes for it. I've had training partners bait me for triangle chokes and then work on smashing and passing my guard. I haven't had a ton of success with those, so I think triangle chokes for me aren't my favorite position. I'm not saying they will never work. Some people are so incredible at triangle chokes, they can hit them on anybody. I try to, if I'm going against someone that's super big and thick shouldered, I don't go for triangle chokes. That's just me. But again, if you're super comfortable with those, risk versus reward kind of thing, so you can go for it. But for me, I don't. So the final thing that I'll tell you is strength training. I think that strength training is very, very valuable in Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's definitely a myth that strength doesn't matter in Jiu-Jitsu. I think when you have someone of equal skill set as you, even maybe bigger than you are, a way you can close that gap is get stronger yourself. It's only gonna benefit you in a number of ways. So number one, being stronger is gonna help protect your joints. It's gonna help decrease the risk of injury. And the other thing, if we're wanting to be better at Jiu-Jitsu, the stronger you are, the better your Jiu-Jitsu will be. So those are some ideas. I know we kind of talked a little bit about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, things to avoid. Hopefully it's helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, if you have some different ideas, let me know in the comments. Those are some things that have worked for me. Let me know what works for you. Talk to y'all next time.